Captain Han Wu walked through the dark corridors of Kepler Station with heavy steps. The metal walls around him were old and rusty, and the air smelled like oil and garbage. This was not a place where good things happened. This was where the galaxy dumped its unwanted problems. Han Wu had come here to pick up some cargo for his ship, the Soul Pride. Nothing special, just some basic supplies and maybe some cheap electronics. But as he walked past the lower levels, he heard something that made him stop. It was a soft crying sound like a child in pain, but different somehow. Han Wu had been in space for 15 years, and he had heard many strange sounds, but this one made his heart feel heavy. He followed the sound down a narrow hallway that most people avoided. In a dark corner, behind some broken machines, he found them. There were maybe 20 of them huddled together in a small group. They were small creatures about the size of human children with soft gray fur that looked dirty and matted. Their eyes were huge and black like deep pools of water, and they looked at Han Wu with fear and hope mixed together. Han Wu had never seen anything like them before. They had small hands with tiny fingers, and their ears were pointed like triangles on top of their heads. When they saw him, they pressed closer together and made soft whimpering sounds. One of them was older than the others, and it stepped forward just a little bit. It looked up at Han Wu and spoke in a voice so quiet he could barely hear it. "We are sorry, Mr. We did not mean to bother anyone. We will move if you want us to." Han Wu felt something twist in his stomach. These creatures were scared of him, but they were trying to be polite even though they were obviously suffering. He knelt down so he would not look so big and scary. "What are you doing here?" he asked gently. "Who are you?" The older creature looked surprised that Han Wu was being kind to it. "We are Veli," it said. "We came here on a trade ship. But the captain said we were useless. He left us here 3 days ago. We have no money and no food. Most people kick us or throw things at us." Han Wu looked around the corner where they were hiding. It was terrible. There was no food, no clean water, and no proper place to sleep. The floor was cold metal, and there were sharp edges everywhere that could hurt someone. "Why do people treat you badly?" he asked. The Veli looked down at its small feet. "We are weak," it said. "All the big species in the galaxy say we are failures. We cannot fight. We cannot build strong ships. We cannot make good weapons. Everyone says we should have died out long ago because we are useless." Han Wu felt anger building in his chest, but not at these creatures, at the cruel galaxy that would abandon helpless beings just because they were not strong fighters. He had seen too much cruelty in his years traveling between the stars. "Have you eaten anything?" he asked. The little Veli shook its head. "We found some scraps yesterday, but today we found nothing. The station security told us we have to leave tomorrow or they will throw us out into space." Han Wu made a decision that would change everything. He stood up and pulled out his communication device. "Park Su, this is the captain." His engineer answered quickly. "Yes, Captain, what do you need?" "Prepare the cargo bay for some passengers. We are taking on some refugees." There was a pause. "Captain, are you sure? We barely have enough supplies for ourselves and the next station is 4 days away." "I'm sure," Han Wu said. "Prepare some food and clean water too." The Veli looked up at him with those huge dark eyes. "Are you really going to help us?" the older one asked. "Why would you do that?" "Because it is the right thing to do," Han Wu said simply. "Everyone deserves a chance to live." Within an hour, Han Wu had led the group of Veli through the station corridors to his ship. Other aliens they passed stared and pointed. Some laughed and made cruel comments. A big reptilian creature called out to Han Wu, "Human, you are wasting your time. Those things are worthless. They will just slow you down and eat your food." Han Wu ignored the comments and kept walking. The Veli stayed close to him, clearly afraid of the other aliens they encountered. Some of them were so weak they could barely walk, and Han Wu had to help them along. When they reached the Soul Pride, Han Wu was met by his crew. Park Su, the engineer, was a tough woman who had served in the military. Kim Yuna was their medic and scientist. She was curious about everything. Cho Min was their pilot, and he was always making jokes to keep everyone happy. The crew stared at the group of Veli with surprise and concern. Captain Kim Yuna said quietly, "These creatures look very sick and weak. They need medical attention right away. Take them to the medical bay." Han Wu ordered. "Give them food, water, and whatever treatment they need." But Captain Park Su protested. "We do not know anything about their species. What if they are dangerous? What if they carry diseases?" "Look at them," Han Wu said, pointing to the small frightened creatures. "Do they look dangerous to you? They are refugees who need help." That is all I need to know. Kim Yuna began examining the valley while Park Soo prepared. Sleeping areas in the cargo bay. The creatures were amazed by the kindness they were receiving. The older Veli, whose name was Pim, kept thanking Hanwoo over and over. We have never met beings like you, Pim said to Hanwoo. Most species look at us and see only weakness. You look at us and see people who need help. Why are humans different? Hanwoo thought about the question. Maybe we are not so different, he said finally. We know what it feels like to be small in a big galaxy. We know what it feels like when stronger creatures look down on us. Over the next few hours, as the Soul Pride left Kepler Station, something interesting began to happen. The Veli were not just grateful, they were eager to help. They watched everything the humans did and asked many questions. They learned the names of the crew members and began to understand how the ship worked. Kim Yuna was fascinated by how quickly they learned. Captain, she said to Hanwoo privately, these creatures are incredibly intelligent. They picked up basic Korean words in just a few hours. Their brains seemed to work differently than ours. How so? Hanwoo asked. They seem to understand emotions and intentions even before we speak, Kim Yuna explained. When I was treating the injured ones, they knew what I needed before I asked for it. It was like they could read my mind. That night, as the ship traveled through space, Hanwoo walked through the cargo bay where the Veli were sleeping. Most of them were resting peacefully for the first time in days, but Pim was still awake. Thank you, Pim said softly. We thought we were going to die on that station. Han Woo sat down next to the small creature. You do not need to thank me. We all deserve help when we need it. Pim looked at him with those deep, dark eyes. There is something I must tell you, it said. We are not as weak as everyone thinks. We have abilities that other species do not understand. But we have never had anyone treat us with kindness before. We have never had a reason to show what we can really do. What do you mean? Hanwoo asked. Pim smiled, and for the first time, Hanwoo saw something in those eyes that was not fear or sadness. It was hope mixed with something else. Something that looked almost like power. You will see, Pim said. You saved us, Captain Hanwoo. Now we will show you what the galaxy has forgotten about the Veli. We are not weak, we are just waiting for the right partners. As Hanwoo walked back to his quarters, he had no idea that his simple act of kindness had just set in motion events that would shake the entire galaxy. The weakest species in the universe was about to become something no one expected. And it all started with one human who chose compassion over indifference. 3 days had passed since the Soul Pride left Kepler Station, and things on the ship were changing in ways that nobody expected. The Veli were not just passengers anymore, they were becoming part of the crew in ways that amazed everyone. Lee Tae was a former soldier who worked as security on the ship. He was teaching some of the younger Veli basic self-defense moves just to help them build confidence. What started as simple exercises quickly became something much more interesting. The Veli learned faster than any human Lee Tae had ever trained. They did not just copy his movements, they improved them. A simple blocking technique became elegant and flowing. A basic punch became precise and powerful. Within hours they were moving like they had trained for years. But that was not the strangest part. When Lee Tae worked with a young Veli named Kip, something incredible happened. Lee Tae could feel what Kip was thinking. He knew where Kip would move before Kip moved, and Kip seemed to know exactly what Lee Tae wanted him to do. It was like they shared the same mind. Kim Yuna was fascinated by what she was seeing. She ran test after test on the Veli and discovered things that should have been impossible. Their brains were changing. The neural pathways were growing at an incredible rate, forming new connections every hour. Captain, she told Hanwoo privately, I think we need to understand what is happening here. The Veli are not just learning from us, they are bonding with us on a level I have never seen before. What do you mean bonding? Hanwoo asked him. Yuna showed him brain scans on her computer. When a Veli spends time with one of us, their brain activity changes. It starts to match our patterns, but it also enhances them. The Veli who has been working with Lee Tae now shows brain activity that is 3 times more complex than when he arrived. Han Woo looked at the data with concern. Is it dangerous? I do not think so, Kim Yuna said. In fact, I think it might be beneficial. Lee Tae reported that his reflexes have improved since working with Kip. His reaction time is faster and his coordination is better. It is like the bond helps both species. Cho Min, the pilot, was experiencing this firsthand. He had started teaching a Veli named Dal about flying the ship. Dahl was eager to learn and had a natural understanding of three-dimensional movement that impressed Cho Min. The real test came when they encountered an asteroid field. The Sol Pride navigation system was old and not very reliable. Cho Min usually had to fly through dangerous areas by instinct and experience. But with Dahl sitting beside him, something amazing happened. Cho Min could sense the asteroids before he could see them on the screen. Dahl was somehow feeding him information about the space around the ship, information that no instrument could provide. They moved through the asteroid field like they were dancing, each turn and twist perfectly timed. How did you do that? Cho Min asked Dahl. After they were safely through, Dahl looked confused. I did not do anything special. I just felt where the safe paths were, and you felt them too, Park. Sue was having her own experiences with the Velier. Group of them had started helping her with engine maintenance. They had no technical training, but they seemed to understand the ship systems intuitively. They could sense when something was wrong before any alarm went off. Captain Park Sue reported to Hanwoo, the Veli are incredible. They can feel vibrations in the ship that our instruments cannot detect. They predicted an engine problem 2 days before it would have failed. The changes were not just in the Veli, the human crew members were also different. Lee Tae was stronger and faster. Cho Min could pilot with supernatural skill. Kim Yuna could diagnose medical problems with just a glance. Park Soo could fix complex machinery by touch alone. But the most dramatic change was in the Veli themselves. They were no longer the weak, frightened creatures that Hanwoo had found on Kepler Station. They moved with confidence and grace. Their fur had become thick and shiny. Their eyes were bright and alert. They were growing stronger and more coordinated every day. The bond between each human and their Veli partner was unique. Lee Tae and Kip worked as a perfect fighting team. Cho Min and Dahl could pilot through any danger. Kim Yuna and her partner Jung could heal injuries that should have taken weeks to recover from. Hanwoo found himself bonded with Piam, the elder Veli. Together they could make command decisions with perfect clarity. They could sense the mood of the entire crew and know exactly what orders to give. But the changes went deeper than just abilities. The humans in Veli were beginning to think alike, to feel the same emotions, to care about the same things. The crew of the Sol Pride was becoming something new. One evening as they traveled through hyperspace, Hanwoo called a meeting. Everyone gathered in the main cabin, humans and Veli sitting side by side. We need to talk about what is happening to us. Hanwoo said, I think we all know that something extraordinary is occurring. Piam spoke up with confidence that had not been there before. Captain Hanwoo, we told you that we had abilities other species did not understand. This is what we meant. We are a bonding species. We can link with other beings and together become more than either could be alone. Why has no other species discovered this? Lee Tae asked. Because no other species showed us kindness. PM replied, when beings treat us as worthless, we become worthless. When they see us as weak, we become weak. But when someone like you treats us as equals, as friends, as family, then we can show our true nature. Kim Yuna leaned forward. So you have been waiting all this time for someone to give you a chance? Not waiting, PM said, evolving. We have been changing over thousands of years, becoming better at bonding, becoming stronger at helping our partners. But we needed partners who would accept us completely. What happens now? Cho Min asked. Are we still human? Are you still Veli? We are both, PM said, and we are more. We are the first of something new. Hanwoo felt a strange mix of emotions, excitement, fear, hope, and wonder. What he had thought was a simple rescue mission had become something that could change the galaxy, but he also sensed that other forces in the universe would not be happy about these changes. As if reading his thoughts, PM spoke quietly. Captain Hanwoo, there is something else you need to know. News of what we have become is spreading. Other species are taking notice. Some will be curious, some will be afraid, and some will see us as a threat. How do you know this? Hanwoo asked. Because we Veli are connected to each other across space. PM explained. Other Veli in other parts of the galaxy are beginning to bond with humans too. The change is spreading, and the powerful species who rule the galaxy are starting to worry. Hanwoo realized that their quiet journey was about to become much more complicated. They were no longer just a cargo ship with some unusual passengers. They were the beginning of something that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, and not everyone would be happy about that. As the Sol Pride continued through space toward their next destination, the crew settled into their new reality. They were pioneers in a relationship between species that had never existed before, but they were also carrying a secret that could make them the most wanted beings in the galaxy. The weakest species had found their strength, and nothing would ever be the same. The Soul Pride approached Titan Colony with its usual cargo run schedule, but Hanwoo could sense that something was different about this visit. The space around the colony was busier than normal, with ships from many different species all seeming to watch and wait as they docked at the station. Hanwoo noticed that other ship captains were staring at them with unusual interest. Word about the Human-Veli partnership had spread faster than he had expected, and now they were the center of galactic attention. Captain Park Soo said over the ship communications, "We are getting multiple requests for boarding and inspection from various alien authorities. They all want to see the Veli. Tell them we are a civilian cargo ship." Hanwoo replied, "We follow standard docking procedures, nothing more." But as soon as they opened the ship doors, it became clear that this would not be a normal stop. A group of tall gray-skinned aliens in military uniforms was waiting for them. These were Krex warriors known throughout the galaxy as enforcers who settled disputes with violence. The lead Krex stepped forward, his name badge read Commander Zul, and his voice was deep and threatening when he spoke. "Human Captain, you will surrender the creatures you call Veli to Krex authority immediately. They are a security risk to galactic peace." Hanwoo stepped protectively in front of his crew. "The Veli are passengers on my ship," he said calmly. "They have done nothing wrong, and I will not hand them over to anyone, Commander." Zul laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the docking bay. "You do not understand, human. The weak species you have collected are creating chaos in the galaxy. Reports are coming from every sector of humans bonding with these creatures and developing dangerous abilities. This cannot be allowed to continue." Behind Hanwoo, his crew and the Veli formed a tight group. Lee Tae and his partner Kip stood ready for trouble. Cho Min and Dal positioned themselves near the ship controls. Park Soo and her Veli partners prepared to seal the ship if necessary. "What authority do you have to take my passengers?" Hanwoo asked. "The Krex Empire has maintained galactic order for over 1,000 years," Commander Zul replied. "Humans are a minor species, useful for labor, but not important enough to challenge the established balance. You will comply or face the consequences." Other aliens had gathered to watch the confrontation. Some seemed curious, others appeared worried. A few species that had always been friendly to humans now kept their distance, as if afraid of being associated with them. Piam stepped forward, despite Hanwoo trying to keep him behind the human crew. "Commander Zal," he said in his quiet voice, "we Veli have never sought to harm anyone. We only wish to live in peace. You are the problem creature." Zal snarled. "Your kind is disrupting the natural order. The strong rule and the weak serve. This has been the way for millennia. Your bonding with humans threatens this system. Then maybe your system is wrong," Piam replied with more courage than anyone expected. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Every alien in the docking bay went quiet. Commander Zill's face turned dark with anger. No minor species had ever spoken to a Krex commander like that. "You will learn respect," Zul growled and signaled to his soldiers. What happened next shocked everyone. The Krex soldiers moved toward the Veli with their weapons drawn, but Lee Tae and Kip reacted as one person. Lee Tae dodged left while Kip rolled right, both moving with impossible coordination. The first Krex soldier found himself grabbing empty air as his target seemed to vanish. Kip was no longer the small frightened creature they had rescued from Kepler Station. His movements were fluid and precise, like a warrior who had trained for decades. He struck pressure points on the Krex soldier armor, causing the alien to stumble and fall. Lee Tae fought with enhanced reflexes and strength that surprised even him. He could predict every attack before it came because Kip was feeding him information through their bond. Together they moved like one organism with two bodies. The other human Veli pairs joined the fight. Cho Min and Dal worked together to disable the Krex weapons systems. Park Soo and her partners used their technical knowledge to turn the station's security systems against the attackers, but it was Kim Yuna and her partner Jung who provided the most shocking moment when a Krex soldier tried to shoot at the fleeing Veli. Kim Yuna moved faster than any human should be able to move. She disarmed the soldier and applied a medical technique that rendered him unconscious instantly. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, 8 Krex soldiers lay defeated on the docking bay floor. None of them were seriously injured, but all of them were completely helpless. Commander Zol stared in disbelief at the scene before him. "Impossible," he whispered. "Humans are weak, Veli are worthless. How did you defeat trained Krex warriors? Because we are not human or Veli anymore," Hanwu said. "We are something new, something you do not understand." The crowd of aliens watching began to murmur among themselves. Some backed away in fear, others moved closer with curiosity. The balance of power they had always known was shifting before their eyes. Activated his emergency communicator calling for backup, but Hanwu knew they had to leave immediately. More Krex ships would arrive soon, and next time they would come with heavier weapons. All crew back to the ship, Hanwu ordered. "We are leaving now." As they prepared for emergency departure, Pim approached. "Hanwu, Captain, what happened here will spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species will know that humans and Veli together can defeat even the Krexus. That good or bad?" Hanwu asked. Both. Pim replied. "Some species will fear us, others will want to join us, and some will try to destroy us before we become too powerful. The galaxy is about to change, and we are the reason. We, the Soul Pride, launched from Titan Colony just as 3 more Krex warships arrived in the system." Hanwu watched the colony shrink behind them and realized that they could never go back to their old life. They were no longer just traders and refugees. They were the first representatives of a new kind of relationship between species. As they jumped to hyperspace, messages were already spreading across galactic communication networks. The weakest species in the galaxy had just defeated some of the strongest warriors, and everyone wanted to know how. The news would reach the Galactic Council within days, and then decisions would be made that would affect every living being in the galaxy. The age of Human-Veli partnership had begun, and the old order was already starting to crumble. Hanwu looked at his crew, both human and Veli, and saw determination in their eyes. They had not asked for this responsibility, but they would face whatever came. Next, together, the galaxy was about to learn that strength was not just about weapons and armies. Sometimes the strongest force in the universe was the bond between those who chose to trust each other. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 300 species filled the massive hall, their voices rising in anger, fear, and confusion. The emergency session had been called after reports of the Human-Veli partnership spread across every communication network in the galaxy. High Chancellor Vex, the ancient being whose species had ruled the Council for 2,000 years, called for order, but the noise continued. Species that had never agreed on anything were now united in their concern about what they saw as a threat to galactic stability. "The humans have violated the natural order," shouted Ambassador Roth of the Hegemony Alliance. "They have taken the weakest species and somehow made them dangerous. This cannot be allowed." From across the chamber came a different voice. Ambassador Nira of the Peaceful Zelon spoke calmly. "Perhaps we should study this phenomenon before we condemn it. The reports suggest that both species benefit from the partnership study." Roth replied angrily. "They defeated Krex soldiers. These creatures that we considered evolutionary failures are now capable of military action. What happens when they decide they want more than just survival?" The debate continued for hours, but everyone knew the real test would come when the human representative arrived. Ambassador Ro Yun had been traveling to the council station for 3 days, and her arrival was scheduled for this afternoon. When the chamber doors opened, all conversation stopped. Ambassador Ro Yun walked into the hall with confidence and dignity, but what shocked everyone was her companion. A Veli walked beside her, not hiding behind her or following at a distance, but as an equal partner. The Veli was unlike any that the council members had seen before. This one moved with grace and purpose. Its fur was thick and shiny, and its eyes held intelligence and strength that commanded respect. "I am Ambassador Ro Yun, representing humanity," Ro Yun announced, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "And this is my partner Rin, representing the Veli. Both of our species seek peaceful coexistence with the galactic community." High Chancellor Vex leaned forward in his chair. "Human, the presence of that creature in this chamber is unprecedented. The Veli have never been considered capable of diplomatic representation." "Perhaps," Ro Yun replied, "that is because no one ever gave them the chance." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some council members seemed curious, others appeared outraged. Several species representatives stood to speak at once. The emergency debate that followed revealed the deep problems in galactic society. For thousands of years, species had been ranked by their perceived strength and usefulness. The strongest species ruled while the weakest served or were ignored completely. The idea that two lower-ranked species could combine to challenge this system was unthinkable to many ambassador. Orcs of the military-focused Draxan Empire stood to address the chamber. We have maintained galactic peace through strength and clear hierarchy. If weak species can suddenly become strong, then chaos will follow. Every minor species will seek to challenge their betters, but Rin the Veli partner spoke for the first time, shocking everyone present. We do not seek to challenge anyone, we seek only to live and grow and help our partners do the same. The galaxy is large enough for cooperation. Instead of domination, the fact that a Veli was speaking in the Galactic Council sent waves of shock through the representatives. Many had never heard a Veli speak at all, and certainly never with such confidence and wisdom. As the debate continued, reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Human Veli partnerships were forming on dozens of worlds. Some happened naturally as humans encountered abandoned Veli. Others were planned as word spread about the benefits of bonding, but there were also disturbing reports. Terrorist attacks had begun targeting human colonies and Veli settlements. Extremist groups from various species were coordinating strikes designed to prevent the partnerships from spreading. The attacks were brutal and designed to create fear. A message arrived in the middle of the council session that changed everything. The human colony on Kepler 7 had been attacked during the night. Orbital bombardment had destroyed 3 cities and killed thousands of humans and Veli. The attackers had left a message claiming that the partnerships were a disease that had to be stopped. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some species condemned the attacks, others quietly approved. Many called for immediate military action but disagreed on who should be the target. Ambassador Ro Yun stood calmly despite the terrible news. Honorable council members, she said, this attack proves that fear and hatred still guide too many decisions in our galaxy, but it also proves something else. She gestured to Rin, who stepped forward. The Veli across the galaxy felt the deaths of their people on Kepler 7. Every bonded pair shared the grief and the anger. This tragedy has not weakened the partnerships, it has made them stronger. High Chancellor Vex called for quiet. What do you mean? Human Rin answered. The bonds between our species grow stronger in times of crisis. The attack on Kepler 7 has caused thousands more humans and Veli to seek each other out. We are not becoming weaker, we are becoming more united. Reports confirm this disturbing news from the perspective of the established powers. Human recruitment stations were forming on every world where Veli could be found. The partnerships were spreading faster than anyone had expected. Ambassador Quark slammed his fist on his speaking platform. This is exactly what we feared. These creatures multiply their influence through emotional manipulation. They are a virus spreading through galactic society. No, Ro Yun replied, they are evolution. Evolution does not ask permission, and it does not stop for the convenience of those in power. The debate was interrupted by an urgent message from the Krex Empire. Commander Zal reported that human Veli teams were now active in 17 star systems. Their capabilities were growing rapidly, and they were beginning to coordinate across vast distances. The Council faced an impossible choice. They could try to stop the partnerships through force, but the attack on Kepler 7 had shown that violence only made the bonds stronger. They could try to regulate the partnerships, but humans and Veli were spreading to worlds beyond any government control, or they could accept that the galaxy was changing. High Chancellor Vex made the announcement that would divide the galaxy. The Galactic Council will vote on Resolution 7749 to classify human Veli partnerships as a threat to galactic security and authorize military action to contain the spread. The vote was scheduled for the next day, but everyone knew the outcome would determine whether the galaxy moved forward into a new age or descended into the largest war in galactic history. As Ambassador Ro Yun and Rin left the council chamber, they passed representatives from dozens of species. Some glared with hostility, others nodded with respect. A few approached them privately to whisper messages of support. The battle lines were being drawn between those who feared change. The vote in the Galactic Council was not even close. 312 species voted to classify human Veli partnerships as a galactic threat. Only 47 voted against it, and 21 abstained. The resolution authorized military action to contain what they called the partnership epidemic. Within hours of the vote, fleets from the hegemony Alliance began moving toward human space, the combined armagas of the Krex Empire, the Draxan military, state, and 15 other major powers represented the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Their mission was simple: destroy the Human Valley partnerships before they could spread further. The galaxy had underestimated how quickly the partnerships were evolving. General Park Dong commanded the human defense forces from the military base on New Sol. He had been a career soldier for 30 years and had never seen anything like what was happening to his troops. The humans who had bonded with Veli were no longer ordinary soldiers. They moved with perfect coordination, anticipated enemy tactics, and fought with abilities that defied explanation. A single human Veli pair could accomplish missions that used to require entire squads, but it was not just the enhanced abilities that amazed General Park. It was how the partnerships were changing the very nature of warfare. Captain Yoon Se-Seo led the first official Human Valley military unit. Her team of 24 bonded pairs had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. The unit called itself the Unity Squad, and they fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The first major battle took place in the Kepler system, where it all began. The hegemony Alliance sent a massive fleet to destroy the human colonies and capture any valley they could find. What they encountered was beyond their worst fears. The Unity Squad did not fight like a traditional military unit. They fought like a single organism with multiple bodies. Each pair was connected not just to their partner, but to every other pair in the unit. They shared information, instantly coordinated attacks across vast distances, and adapted to new threats in real time. When the hegemony ships attacked the human orbital stations, they expected to face conventional defenses. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Captain Yunesio and her Veli partner Nim directed the battle from their command ship, but they were not just giving orders. They were sharing their thoughts and intentions with every other pair in the unit. The entire squad moved as one mind, controlling dozens of ships and weapon systems. The battle lasted 6 hours, and when it ended, the hegemony fleet was in full retreat. They had lost over half their ships, while the Human Valley forces had suffered minimal casualties. Reports of the defeat spread across the galaxy, causing shock and fear among the established powers. How is this possible? Demanded Commander Zul in his report to Krex Command. The humans in Valley fought with coordination that should be impossible. Their ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons fired with supernatural accuracy, and they anticipated every one of our tactical moves. Answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kim Yuna had been studying the partnership bonds for months, and her latest discovery changed everything. She found that the Veli were not just bonding with individual humans, they were creating a network that connected all bonded pairs across the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Every human Veli pair could potentially share information with every other pair in real time. The partnerships were becoming a collective intelligence that spanned star systems, but the most shocking discovery was yet to come. The Veli were evolving at an incredible rate. Their bodies were changing to better support their human partners. They were becoming stronger, faster, and more durable. The weak creatures that had once been dismissed as evolutionary failures were transforming into something the galaxy had never seen. General Park Dong received reports that made him question everything he thought he knew about warfare. A single human Veli pair had infiltrated a hegemony military base and destroyed it from within. They had moved through the facility like ghosts, avoiding detection and disabling security systems with supernatural skill. Another pair had hijacked an entire Draxan battleship, turning its weapons against the rest of the enemy fleet. The crew of 800 trained soldiers had been unable to stop two beings working in perfect harmony. The war was spreading rapidly as more species chose sides. The galaxy divided into two camps: those who supported the old order and those who embraced the new partnership. Some species, like the peaceful Nari, openly welcomed human Veli teams. Others, like the trade-focused Mechs, saw opportunity in the chaos, but the most significant development was happening on worlds across the galaxy. Humans and Veli were finding each other in increasing numbers. The partnerships were forming faster than any military force could stop them. The hegemony Alliance realized they were not fighting a conventional war. They were fighting against evolution itself. The Human Valley partnerships represented a new form of life that was spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. As the conflict escalated, the partnerships continued to evolve. The latest reports spoke of bonded pairs who could communicate without words, fight without weapons, and solve problems that had puzzled scientists for centuries. The galaxy was witnessing the birth of something entirely new, and no military force seemed capable of stopping it. General Park Dong looked at the strategic displays showing battles raging across dozens of star systems. The old galactic order was crumbling and something unprecedented was taking its place. The weakest species in the galaxy had become its strongest, not through conquest but through connection, and the war they were fighting was not just about territory or resources. It was about the future of consciousness itself. The machine of war had awakened. But it was not the machine that anyone expected. Instead of destroying, it was creating. Instead of dividing, it was uniting. And instead of bringing death, it was bringing a new form of life to the galaxy. The final phase of the conflict was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The war had raged for 6 months, and the galaxy was transformed. Beyond recognition, entire star systems had chosen sides, and the conflict had spread to regions that had known peace for millennia. But as the fighting intensified, something unexpected was happening. Dr. Kim Yuna made a discovery that changed everything she thought she knew about the Veli. Deep in her laboratory on New Sol, she had been studying tissue samples from the oldest known Veli specimens. What she found hidden in their genetic code was a message that had been waiting millions of years to be decoded. The Veli were not a natural species in the way that other beings understood evolution. They were something far more extraordinary. They were designed by the universe itself to be catalysts for the next stage of galactic consciousness. Captain, we need to talk, Kim Yuna said to Han Wu over the secure communication channel. What I have discovered about the Veli will change how we understand everything. Han Wu arrived at her laboratory within the hour, accompanied by Piaim, who had become his constant companion. The bond between them had grown so strong that they rarely made important decisions apart. Show me what you found, Han Wu said. Kim Yuna activated her holographic display. The genetic structure of the Veli contains patterns that are not random, she explained. They are mathematical sequences that describe the process of consciousness evolution. The Veli are not just bonding with us, they are guiding us towards something greater. What do you mean? PMS Yuna looked at the gentle creature with new respect. Your species has been waiting for millions of years for the right partners. The apparent weakness that every other species saw was actually preparation. You were becoming the perfect catalyst for consciousness expansion. The implications were staggering. The Veli had not been abandoned by evolution, they had been prepared by it. Their ability to bond with other species was not just symbiosis, it was transformation. Meanwhile, the final battle of the war was beginning above Earth itself. The hegemony Alliance had gathered their remaining forces for one last desperate assault. If they could destroy the human homeworld, they believed they could stop the spread of the partnerships. The combined fleet represented the military might of dozens of species united in their fear of change. Admiral Song Jun commanded the defense of Earth from the bridge of the battleship. Inchin beside him stood his Veli partner Kara, and together they coordinated the human response. But what happened next shocked everyone involved in the battle. As the enemy fleet approached Earth, something unprecedented occurred. Every human Veli pair in the star system suddenly connected to every other pair. The psychic bonds that had linked individual partnerships expanded to encompass the entire defense force. For the first time in galactic history, thousands of conscious beings shared the same thoughts and feelings. The experience was overwhelming and beautiful and terrifying all at once. Admiral Song Jun felt his consciousness expand to include not just Kara, but every bonded pair defending Earth. He could see through thousands of eyes, think with thousands of minds, and feel the hopes and fears of an entire species. But the connection went deeper than just the humans and Veli. The network of consciousness reached out across space to every partnership in the galaxy. Humans and Veli who had never met felt the emotions of the battle above Earth. The joy of connection, the fear of loss, and the determination to protect what they had built together. The hegemony Alliance fleet found themselves facing something they had never encountered in thousands of years of warfare. The human Veli forces did not fight like separate units. They fought like a single organism with countless bodies. Every ship moved in perfect coordination, every weapon fired with supernatural precision, every defensive maneuver was executed with timing that seemed impossible. The enemy found themselves not just outgunned but out-hot at every turn, but the most remarkable moment came when the hegemony forces realized they were losing. Instead of fighting to the death, the human Veli forces began broadcasting a message of peace. The consciousness network that had formed during the battle reached out to the enemy, not with weapons but with understanding. Commander Zul found himself experiencing something he had never felt before. Through the psychic connection, he could feel the emotions of his enemies. He could sense their desire for peace, their hope for a better future, and their genuine care for all living beings. The battle stopped not because one side defeated the other, but because both sides suddenly understood each other. The consciousness network that had formed during the fight began to include members of the Hegemony Alliance. Krex warriors found themselves connected to human soldiers. Draxan pilots shared thoughts with Veli partners. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly experienced each other's perspectives. The transformation was not limited to the battle above Earth. Similar connections were forming across the galaxy as the psychic network expanded to include more and more beings. The rigid boundaries between species began to dissolve as consciousness itself evolved. High Chancellor Vex found himself part of the network despite never having met a human or Veli. The experience of shared consciousness was so profound that he immediately called for an end to all hostilities. The war ended not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to reorganize itself around the new reality of shared consciousness. The old hierarchies based on strength and dominance crumbled as species discovered the power of cooperation and connection. The Galactic Council was reformed with representatives from every species, including the Veli, who were finally recognized as equals. The new government was based not on the rule of the strong, but on the wisdom of the connected. Captain Han Wu now served as an ambassador between the old galaxy and the new. He often thought about that day on Kepler Station when he first encountered the Veli. His simple act of kindness had set in motion changes that transformed the entire galaxy. The Veli had revealed their true purpose not as the weakest species, but as the key to evolution itself. They had been waiting for partners who would treat them with respect and kindness. And when they found those partners, they had unlocked the potential for something greater than any single species could achieve. Alone, the galaxy had learned that true strength came not from domination, but from connection, not from conquest, but from cooperation. The weakest had become the strongest by teaching everyone else that they were all part of something larger than themselves. As Han Wu stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Council station, he looked out at the stars and felt the presence of millions of connected minds, each one unique but all part of a greater whole. The universe had revealed its next step in evolution, and it was not about survival of the fittest, but about the triumph of connection. The age of isolation was ending and the age of unity had begun. And it all started with one human who chose compassion over indifference.